Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Bustos. I am a family law attorney operating out of Austin, Texas, but I serve all counties in the Central Texas region. Me and my firm, we represent clients through some of the most trying times of their life in the divorce process, and we try to guide them and move them forward into a brighter future. Today, I have with me Amy Adler. Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Adler. I am a CPA, a certified fraud examiner, a certified divorce financial analyst, and two-time divorcee. And I'm super passionate about helping people through the process to feel supported and armed with the important information so that they can make the best decisions for themselves and their families as they begin their new lives. Lisa and I are recording a video series for folks who are considering or in process of divorce. And today's question that we're going to discuss is, I think my spouse is hiding assets. What can I do about that? Lisa, what do you think?
So in the divorce process, there's a lot of different ways that we can handle any kind of divorce. But if you are concerned that your spouse is hiding assets, or maybe you're just unaware of what your assets are, one of the things that we do is discovery. Discovery is kind of this big umbrella, but the idea is that we try to discover information. So there are 4 methods of discovery. The first is interrogatory, which we ask questions of your spouse, and your spouse is required to provide a sworn statement in response to those questions. The second is a request for admissions, in which we will ask a question and your spouse is required to either admit or deny. Admit or deny that statement that we ask them. The third is a request for production and inspection. And this is kind of the big daddy that we ask for all the documents, and we ask for a return, for your spouse to turn over documents to us. Generally, we ask for 5 years of things like bank statements, retirement accounts, other types of statements that might be relevant. If there's debt, a lot of marriages have debt. We ask for credit reports so that we can see the full scale of every debt that goes in and out of your marriage. It's also really helpful for us to kind of figure out what the estate looks like so that we can start figuring out how we're going to award property in your divorce. If the fourth and final discovery asset that we typically use is the deposition. These aren't used in every case, but this is when you and your spouse meet, and your respective attorneys will meet with a court reporter, and your spouse will be sworn in and will have to testify as to whatever questions your attorney asks. This gives a pretty broad range. It's a lot like your spouse being on the stand, but the judge isn't present. And sometimes those depositions will lead to more questions that we can go and ask for more documents and a request for production and inspection, because maybe there's a hidden bank account that we didn't know about, or a forgotten retirement account, or a property that your spouse may have never mentioned to you before. Generally, when we get a request for production and inspection, we turn those documents over to Amy, who is our forensic accountant that we know and love at our firm and use quite often, actually. And Amy can tell you a little bit about her process. Amy?
Yeah, so Lisa mentioned a lot of great documents that we would get in the discovery process. And then my job is to take those documents and paint a picture of the story of the financial picture of the marriage. I'm sure you never thought of CPAs as being artists, but we are in a way. So that picture is in the form of tracing all of your assets and your debts, income, expenses, all of that, to try to figure out where there might be holes in the situation or in the documentation that's been provided. So I'm going to take things like tax returns for the past up to 5 years, and I'm going to look at all of the different income sources, because when you do your tax return, you get a 1099 or a W-2 for all of the major income that you received, whether it's from investments or from your job. And that W-2 from your job tells me how much money was put away into your retirement account and taken away for taxes and all these other things, even your vacation sometimes. So if you're in sales and win a vacation or some type of bonus. So all of that information comes together with the bank statements that show all the different transactions, your credit card statements that show all the expenses that have been purchased, all that kind of stuff. And I put it all together to figure out where the money came in, where the money left. And if there are questions about some of those transactions, then I would make a list of those questions for then Lisa to follow up in the discovery process with that next round. So really, in most cases, it's really difficult to truly hide money because there's going to be a paper trail of some sort. If there's been property purchased, especially if it's significant like a car or a house, there's going to be a deed and title, and so that's going to be available. But there's also going to be money that's gone to pay for those things. It could be that we'll find the debt for it on your credit report. It might be that we find, like in my situation, the down payment paid on the credit card statement. So in my own divorce situation, that did happen for me, that my ex-husband had purchased a car and put the down payment on our credit card. So there were ways to find where all the assets are by looking at the different transactions through the statements that we get. And so typically there's going to be holes. If I know that your spouse made a certain amount of money from the W-2 and I don't see that much money going into your direct deposits in the bank account, then I can say, there might be some money getting funneled somewhere else. And so that's the kind of question that I would submit to Lisa to then ask the other side so we can get more information.
Well,
and that would be where we'd start.
Money doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just go into thin air. So that working with someone like Amy who can provide tracing is really, really helpful, because if you have questions about whether or not your spouse is hiding money, it doesn't matter if we don't have proof. And having proof is one of the most important things, especially if we need to go in front of a judge, because the judge won't know you from the person in front of you or the person behind you. They're coming to your life fresh-faced and starry-eyed, so to speak, but not generally starry-eyed, maybe a little skeptical. But they're coming in and they need to see proof, and having a tracing report by someone like Amy, or someone who can show where the money's coming in and out is incredibly helpful, because it proves to the judge that there are some holes, but we need to figure out either how to fill those holes with information, or the judge can kind of start connecting the dots himself or herself.
One of the other things that I hear oftentimes and have seen too as ways that people try to hide money is because technology has gotten to be so amazing in this age. There's all these different apps and online systems that people can use to store money and pay and receive money. So I think part of the discovery process, when Lisa sends it over to the other side, requests very specific information such as Venmo, PayPal accounts,
Cash App.
Yeah, Cash App, any of those types of systems that are outside your standard banking arrangements, where money could be coming in and going out, and you don't have any idea about that. So this way, we're kind of forcing them to either say that they don't have that or to provide that information. And so that's when, if it does make it all the way to court, then you can state in trial or in a hearing that, well, they said they don't have it, and yet we can't find this money, so there must be something, right?
Well, and I think that one of the most important things about that an attorney can advise their client in a divorce situation is not to hide any information. And I know that sounds a little bit counterintuitive from what some people are thinking, because your attorney is your secret keeper. But when it comes to disclosing assets, we need to truly disclose everything, because there are some pretty harsh and severe consequences if you're caught hiding information. So for example, if you have a retirement account that you don't want to disclose, but you've had that since before you were married, and it's your separate property, and you don't really think that you need to say anything about it, if your spouse finds out after the divorce is finalized that retirement account exists, that your spouse can go to the court and go to the judge and request that the judge award him or her a portion of that retirement account, or as a extreme consequence, the entire retirement account. And that may have been something that if you had just disclosed it, he or she would never have been entitled to in the first place. But because it was hidden, because it wasn't disclosed, you know, your ex-spouse is now sitting pretty with that entire retirement account. That's something that I want to try to have my clients avoid at any cost. And that's a lot of pain in addition to attorney's fees, or, you know, further dragging out your divorce when you thought it was over. Those are some pretty severe consequences. So I think every attorney in the state of Texas is pretty clear you need to disclose because we don't want to, you know, it's malpractice if we hide assets, but on top of that, it's, you know, the consequences are very severe.
Yeah, and you actually just sparked another thought in my mind. There's one other document that we can request from the other side that helps us determine if there are any other assets, and that is your spouse's full resume of all work, all employment, not just current, but what they've done the entire time that you've been married. Because one of the most common assets that I see hidden that gets by without being detected in the divorce process is a retirement account that wasn't rolled over to a new one when they got a new job. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah, because people, especially people who've been in marriages for a long time and their spouse has been employed by a few different organizations, when they leave the organization, they can choose to roll over their 401k into their new 401k, or just leave it, and then it just automatically converts to an IRA with that company that was managing the money. So if they only report one retirement account on the inventory, then a lot of times people will just check it off and be like, okay, we've got the retirement account. But the truth is, unless we know that that's the case and that there aren't other accounts sitting out there, then it's very possible that could be hidden. So one of the best ways to determine that is to find out where all of the different places are that your spouse has worked during the marriage, to make sure that we capture all of those retirement accounts and keep it from being hidden. So that's another good tidbit there that people can ask for in the divorce process.
And that's a fantastic tip. You know, we're doing this video series and these recordings to help people who are, you know, maybe wanting to educate themselves more about the divorce process and their finances. So if you found this video helpful, find us in social media. And if you have a question that you would like to ask us or like us to answer, you can drop a comment below and maybe we'll make a video answering that question. So thanks for joining. Sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
All right, bye.